said smaller with God is better. That's why he can, and we find this principle, I said over and over, it always like in what they can put in a hard drive or what do they call it? A microchip. I mean, the amount of information you can get into tiny little things, okay, is absolutely overwhelming. This is the principle. This was when Hokmah. Now, going back to the elf, which is the ox head, which is a representation of heaven. What this, a lot of times, symbol, there's a lot of ways to look at this. This has an elf and a tav on it. I think this is, this is a letter and this is a letter. I can't remember what they are, all right? And this is the separation of the heaven and the earth, okay? This is what it's talking about. As I unpack this whole thing, the whole story is in the elf, okay? But the elf, the bet, is a continuation. The bet is talking right here. See this little center thing? This is Hokmah. This is the dot. This is the pregnant little. I mean, this is got everything in it. Okay, this is the microchip. Okay, but the microchip has already started a process of unfolding. Okay, and the microchip gets into the point. The square and the circle. Last week I had the Masonic symbol on here. Okay, this is funny. The compass, which is bet, which is a circle. This represents the curve. When you're building, this is very important. The square, no, this is the square, okay, and this is the circle, the dot, all right? So I know, all right, let's see, the bet, because it's all here. This dot, okay, is the circle, and the circle starts to emanate and to progress, and it forms a house. This is the geometry. You start with a point. This right here, you start with a point, and if we connect this, you go to a line, and you go a line, and you can make a square. You make your first enclosure. This is the garden. This is the first thing he did. He enclosed all of his data, his information, the whole blueprint, everything that was in Hokmah, into Bina. She became pregnant with it. She gave birth, and this is conceptually, not other gods, people. This is why we got to get away from this concept. Well, I can't even go there. Okay. She had all the secrets and the mysteries, everything was in there, and the whole blueprint for creation. But we are still in a place of air, of neshma, of the high heavens. There's no corporeality, you couldn't see it, but it is pregnant with everything. So you have the heavens and you have the earth, okay? Now, the earth, the heavens refers to is air, okay? But air here, in this is the darkness. So what you have to do is track with these words. I'm going to give this to you, all right? Heaven is tracking with air, okay, which is tracking with darkness, because he says that darkness, so check. Okay, so in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that's like everything soup to nuts. I mean, he could have just closed the Bible at that point and just not have given us any of the more detail, all right? But he's good. He's constantly giving, all right? So he's giving this, trying to give us all the information so we can track with him, not against him. Okay, and now the earth, which refers to and it's still invisible. This is the invisible earth, was formless and void. Now people love these words. Tahu and Bahu, formless and void. Okay, what this is really saying, this is saying, okay, it's not chaos in the sense, it is saying that there is no corporality, there's no physicality, you can't see anything. It's still in the mind of God. There's nothing manifested that you could even begin unless you were God who can see it. We can't see it yet at this point, okay? But he can, okay? He can see it. This is why, and this is the deep and the wide, okay? Because this is when we get into formless and void, Tahu and Bahu. So what I want you to see, this is the heavens and the earth, but they're totally incorporeal at this point, still an idea. These contain everything still in it. You have the four elements. You have the water and you have the air. Okay, so here you have, now the earth was Tahu and Bahu. It didn't have any form to it, okay? And darkness was over the surface of the deep, okay? So darkness means air. The air was over the surface of the earth, because there is still a hierarchy, because air will rise above these, even the elemental idea of earth. Okay, so you had darkness, which represents, because air does not have any color to it. It doesn't mean darkness like in black. It means it doesn't have, there's no manifestation yet of the light, okay? It's just there. And over this empty space, which is the abyss, which in this way is called the abyss, which is talking about the earth. See, this is in this cube of space. This is, let me just try this one now real quick. This is called the cube of space. Okay, you can Google this little thing, all right? We're going to reclaim all this. This is our Yahweh's understanding to us. It is not a cultic symbol. I took this thing because this is really interesting. Okay, so if you're on a flat plane, you miss faith? Oh, let me do it this way because you can't see that. So this is a cross, right? See this? Well, if you were to take this, because on Israel, what they found is the 12 tribes. This is interesting. If you were looking at it aerially, down, how they encamped, it's a cross. And rightly so, because that's looking at it at a flat dimension. But conceptually, we're really talking about all Israel, body, soul, and spirit, the whole thing. From God's point of view, he's seeing all the dimensions. It is a cube. It is a bet. It is a house. It is contained in this. And I diagrammed out on a clear lucite this thing, because this is what I have to say quick, because there is direction to this thing. There is above. There is below. This is called the deep and the wide. There is his creation. There is limits. It has boundaries. I mean, it isn't contained. He goes on forever, but his creation does not. This is the north, this is the south, this is the east, and this is the west on this cube, okay? And so when it talks about, in the Bible, about these deep demonic cords that come from the sides of the north, this is a location, that sides of the north, I was telling you, on the Sephra, is in the left side on Gevera, okay? This is really important information we need to, and I'll spend more time on it another time, okay? But, so what I have to tell you is, everything is in this little point, and that's the circle, the compass, and it makes, geometrically in progression, you next make a square, and that is the garden of the enclosure that God made, and he kept other. And now it starts to emanate down. Berea, we can know this pretty good, okay? This one, Hokmah, is just a flashpoint of wisdom, all right? But now let me get to this next part. So what you have to understand is, if you track with this, the earth is empty, has no shape or anything to it yet, no physicality. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. The darkness refers to the heaven, because it refers to the air, which is over, because elementally air will rise above earth, okay? They always track linearly with the concepts. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, okay? Which you get down into the elements of water and air. There's starting to be mixture here, okay? And above all of these, and then God said, let there be light, and there was light, okay? And then he has the introduction. It's like he kind of just sort of turns the lights on. And you can begin to see, it's like, oh my goodness, okay, this is going to be fun. I can see, all right? And there was light, and he separated, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And that was the first day. But what you have to understand, again, time, so that's why you can't make this 6 days, 24 hours. It is nothing in the Hebrew mind even begins to suggest that. And you, Gentile Christian, come from a Hebraic root. So I'm sorry, you're the one that's going to have to change your understanding to get in line with the greater mysteries of Yahweh God, okay? So this, he spread the light over everything, okay? So now everything is under the light, okay? Now he put a separation, okay? And this is what he did next. He put a separation, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. When you study this out in some of its deeper, heaven and earth. This is, now we get into, this is what this is saying. He put a separation, okay, between heaven and earth, okay, because the part of it, these are such powerful primordials, and this is kind of funny because this is where you get into some of these apocryphal things you read and they say about Adam, and it sounds kind of strange, like why are they saying that? I won't get, but it makes sense when you understand this. So there's this separation going on. You have, and again, it's the waters above and the waters below. He separated heaven and earth, and not in the sense of time. See, this, I should read it to you from here. Let me see if I can do this quick. For there is absolutely nothing in them, this is which is perceptible to the external senses, but they are entirely ideas, and in these are the measures, the forms, the seals, but they're all still as incorporeal as far as the generation of other bodies, of physicality, okay? But when light came, and darkness retreated and yielded to it. So the darkness is referring to the air, because then, and this gets really deep, because I mean, this is Yeshua in my sense. This is where now he's starting to parade his Adam caveman, okay? And darkness retreated and yielded, and the boundaries were set in the space between the two, okay? So he made a boundary between heaven and earth, and he didn't, what he made it, okay, the boundary is made up of. It's hard to kind of conceptualize this, but it is made, the boundaries were set in space, because that's kind of where we are. We're in some kind of spatial category here of time. And but when light came and darkness retreated and yielded to it, boundaries were set in the space between the two, namely evening and morning. These are the boundaries. But then listen to how beautiful this is. Then of necessity, the measure of time was immediately perfected. And we're not talking about on your clock 24-hour time. We're talking about the concept of time as a measurement. So immediately, which also the Creator called day. So he called it not the first day, but he called it the day, okay? One day. So a morning. So what it means, that says the darkness retreated, meaning the light that started to come, the darkness just faded away. It wasn't like there was a fight or something, okay? But then again, time. When it's time for the darkness to reemerge, the light comes out, okay? So there's always a flip-flop between the heavens and the earth. They all get their time, I guess, with the Father. I don't know sometimes how to explain some of this stuff. But this is what he's talking about. He put a boundary between heaven, which is a day and a night, which is a time for the day, the light, and a time for the air, the darkness. But we're still in incorporeal, invisible, mind of God kind of things, okay? Now, let me come down here to, okay, now I want to show you this concept again, just my last probably template that I can do, okay? And what I'll try to do here is, because then the next verse is, and let there be expanse between the waters. See, so now we're going to put a boundary between the dimensions of the waters, okay? This is what's going on here, all right? But the temple is a whole template of this concept, okay? I don't have it diagrammed. Let me just do this really quick, okay? So if you know your temple, you have the outer, it goes like this. I'll just try to make it bigger. And you have the Holy of Holies is in the middle, okay? So this is called the outer court. You have out here, this is, all right, so let me start here. This is the world of emanation. This is Azut. This is the Holy of Holies. This is where God came. Oh, you can't even see that. But you're going to have to trust me on this one. I will start with this one next week where I can diagram it out. But in the Holy of Holies, you have the concept. Again, a tiny little, it doesn't take a lot of space. The high priest would go in and he could meet with the transcendent God. Okay, this was the point. There was a face-to-face kind of realm-to-realm encounter with the transcendent God, okay, in the Holy of Holies, all right? And then you come into another section which is called the So that's the world of emanations, all right? He would come, and you know what? There would be fire. I think that there would be a manifestation of fire just out of the blue. I mean, this is the thing. God would just, oh, that's right. He would come down and he would light the sacrifice, okay, and consume it. Boom. And they did different things like they would put the little bells on the bottom fringes of the high priest's garb, because if he just fell down and fainted or whatever, I don't know, they would hear it. If they heard the bells go off, they knew that the guy had fainted. I mean, they had all these like fail-safe things, okay? But, okay, I got a little track. Okay, so then you have the next enclosure, which is called, it's not the holy place, the holies. It's not holy of holies because then the next one, which is the world of creation, okay? Berea, where then you come out into the larger outer courtyard, which is the world of formation, the world of the soul, which is the court of the Gentiles, and for women. They would let women and the court and the Gentiles go into the outer courtyard, okay? And then they would have into the next courtyard could be the Levites and the priests, okay? And then in the very center, in the Holy of Holies, could go the high priest. So they had these four worlds. And then the outer world, all around it, was what was called the physical world. Okay, that was the whole world of really, and a lot of it was fallen. So this is, again, another archetype, and I will have that dial drawn out so you can see it. But Google the R. This is why the tabernacle, again, I am going back to the concept of the tabernacle being not a tent, not a circular tent, more square, a rectangle, because you have these different out of Bet, out of Bina, out of the second, you have this idea of the right angles, okay? Hokmah, the center, this part in here is the curve. The circle is in the square, okay? Now, let me okay, so that's what I'm doing. I've been fleshing out these top two concepts. This is how your Bible is written. This is the whole mystery that is in the beginning chapters of Genesis. The light, God called the light day. There was a time for the light. And then he called the darkness, which was the heaven, had a time, and he called it night. And that was evening and that was morning. That separation, that whole progression where they each had, was called day one. Okay, not necessarily the first, because first, is in kind of to time. It's just that was day one. That made a complete. This part of the world, this was done. We're good. We got it all wrapped up, and that was in the beginning. With beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so. Because then we're going to get into, and then when you get down, like I said, and we are made in the image and likeness of God, of Elohim, and how that ties into all these concepts. So the two, like I said, the Merkabah, the chariot, which doesn't mean a chariot. It's not, it's not talking about like a flying machine or something. That's a bad word. And I had the word, it's like the systems. It's talking about the systems that are running in the soul life, okay? All those words, the eagle and the lion and the wings, because I will tell you, let me finish with this concept. I'll leave you with this. The four heavens, the four winds of heaven, let me find that, and the four corners of the earth. And a lot of times, see what this showing here, remember the angel is representing thoughts or emotions or living beings that have great movement to them. That's what, but their wings are outstretched onto the edge, the outer boundaries, the extremities. I guess the four corners refers to the extremities. In other words, the heavens do stretched out again, same typology, stretched out over the eretz, the part now in the physicality, what we're talking about, okay? And the four corners refers to the extremities, the four boundaries. So these concepts all track once you get a template, this is my stacking box. Where if this is the physical world, when you get into the world of formation, it fits. When you get into the world of creation and Beria, it fits. When you get into the Ketur, it hits. And finally, with Father God. So in his name, listen, in the name, and you know what? Yeshua is the gate to all of this. He is the door. If you want to get into from here, if you want to start to get up, if you want to end up in the new creation, the new heavens and the new earth, he is the door, he is the gate, and he knocks on the door of your heart. That's what he's saying. Receive him. Just he is no other name. He has the name that is above all names. It is by his name that you get saved. And you get your name put in the roll, back up in the blueprint. So when it's all new heaven and new earth are unrolled, you're there. So in that name I say, God bless, good night, and I'll see you next week.